Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. You call this a D-level ability. Chapter 11. Call. Shu Yi pushed the door open, returned to his home, and breathed a sigh of relief. I was so close to getting into trouble, he muttered, but his eyes showed exhaustion. Facing a living imaginary beast for the first time made his whole body tense, but he finally relaxed at this moment. Although Longxia Academy is famous throughout the country, it is almost the most powerful academy of awakeners. But Shu Yi didn't want to have anything to do with the other party at all. For him, after investigating the dangers and background of this world, he just wants to settle down and put his own safety first. As the most famous college, while shouldering its reputation, it naturally also has to bear corresponding responsibilities. Without absolute certainty, Shu Yi didn't want to put himself in danger. And another reason that made him leave the scene quickly was, he quickly returned to the bedroom and took out the Julie pot from his pocket. The Julie pot, which was originally simple and unresponsive, was now slightly glowing with light blue light. Sure enough, it just absorbed something from those two shadow beasts. Shu Yi's eyes flickered and he murmured. He saw it clearly before. At the moment when the two shadow beasts died, light blue light rushed out of their bodies and penetrated directly into the Julie pot. As for those two rays of light, others seemed unable to see them, as if only he could see them. The seemingly ordinary Julie pot seems to be hiding some unknown secret. He gently opened the lid of the pot and looked inside. But there was darkness inside the pot, and it was impossible to peek into anything. The light blue light that was constantly swallowing gradually dimmed at this moment, slowly disappearing and dissipating. Shu Yi hesitated for a moment and injected the energy in his body into the Julie pot again. In his previous tests, even if energy was injected into the Julie pot, there was no reaction at all. But at this moment, the moment he injected energy into it, his eyes were spinning for a while, and his entire consciousness seemed to be sucked into a pot. He only felt a sense of churning and shuttling. After a while, he finally regained consciousness. But when he looked at the world in front of him, he was stunned. In front of him, there was a paradise with birds singing, flowers fragrant, and dense branches. The waterfall is flowing, the sun is high, the breeze is blowing. Everything is full of unreality. In a daze, Shu Yi even thought that he had traveled through time again and came to another world. Looking down at my body, I saw that it was as real as reality, full of reality. But compared to the original body, this body is lighter, as if there is no restraint. This is your spiritual body. Compared with the real physical body, it is naturally lighter. Suddenly at this moment, a slightly old voice suddenly sounded. Shu Yi suddenly raised his head and looked around. Who is talking? Go to the right and you will see me. The voice sounded again, guiding Shu Yi. Oh no, it should be to your left. Facing this weird voice, Shu Yi narrowed his eyes, but still took steps and walked to the left. About 5 steps, that's right. The voice guided him to keep moving forward. Here, yes, that's right, take about 3 steps forward. But as Shu Yi took a few steps forward, the voice suddenly heard a cry. Hey, we passed by, you stepped on me. At this moment, Shu Yi also felt as if he had stepped on something hard on the sole of his foot. He quickly raised his foot and looked down. But soon, his expression became weird. In the soil under his feet, a bronze-like shell was exposed on the outside of the soil. Judging from the exposed part, he actually felt a sense of familiarity. Very good, now please help me, little friend, to pull it out. Shu Yi's expression became even weirder. Could it be that the thing buried in the soil was the one who kept talking to him? He squatted down, grabbed both ends of the bronze shell with both hands, and pulled it upwards with force. Fortunately, this thing is not buried very deep. With a little force on his arms, he pulled the thing out of the soil. But when he saw the whole thing, Shu Yi's expression suddenly became wonderful. Julie pot. He looked at the bronze in his hand in shock. Its appearance was exactly the same as the Julie that he had repaired. Just when he was stunned, a force suddenly came from his hand. The Julie pot actually came out of his hand and floated in the air out of thin air. Then, an extremely mysterious aura emerged from the body of the pot. The lid of the pot trembled slightly, and streams of extremely misty fairy mist filled the air from its gaps. For a moment, Shu Yi's surroundings seemed to have turned into a fairyland on earth, filled with flying mist. Could it be that, Shu Yi's expression became slightly excited. Seeing this scene in front of him, many works he had seen in his previous life flashed through his mind. Aladdin's magic lamp, the Lord of the Rings, the old man with the ring. Could it be that there is some peerless and powerful soul hidden in the Julie pot in front of me, and he is the destined person? Just when his heart was racing and he was extremely excited, the lid of the Julie pot in front of him began to tremble more and more violently. Shu Yi's excitement subdued slightly, and he watched the lid of the pot tumbling for a full minute with dull eyes. After a while, the lid stopped shaking. The old voice from earlier sounded slightly again, "That little friend. Can you help me open the lid of the pot? I've been sleeping for too long, and my strength has been drained a bit." For some reason, there was a bit of embarrassment and guilt in his voice. Shu Yi was silent for a few seconds, rolled his eyes and lifted the lid of the pot. A ball of pure fairy mist spurted out from the mouth of the pot like a fountain. As the fairy mist filled the air, a figure emerged from it. This figure is not big, half of its body is located in the Julie pot, but it exudes a mysterious aura. But this feeling didn't last long. Not long after that figure emerged, he coughed violently because he had swallowed too much fairy mist. He seemed to notice Shu Yi's speechless eyes. The figure hurriedly coughed, exhaled lightly, and blew away the surrounding fog. His appearance was finally seen by Shu Yi. This was actually an old man who had shrunk countless times, but half of his body was located in the Julie pot, with only his upper body exposed. If you put aside his previous performance of having no temperament, the 4 words, Shanfengdaogu, are more suitable to describe his appearance. But the little old man's behavior just now made Shu Yi lose respect for him. I don't know if I want to save my respect, or if I feel too embarrassed. The old man stroked his beard and looked at Shu Yi, showing a profound attitude, and spoke calmly. I am the spirit of the world in this pot. You can also call me the fairy in the pot. The world in the pot, the fairy in the pot. Shu Yi's eyes flashed rapidly, and it took only 2 seconds to sort out everything. So, my consciousness is now involved in the Julie pot. He looked up and down at the old man in front of him, and you, this unreliable guy, are the weapon spirit here, Xiao Huzi. What is the name of the little pot? Hey, the immortal in the pot almost spat out a mouthful of old blood and yelled loudly, I am a weapon spirit, not a eunuch. Why, don't you like this name? Shu Yi quickly answered, what about the title fairy eunuch? I've turned from a young eunuch to a factory boss. Tisk. Shu Yi curled his lips, okay, since you don't like it, then I'll call you Zongerhu from now on. Boy, I advise you to stop it. The immortal in the pot puffed his beard and glared, my name is the immortal in the pot, don't give me weird nicknames. Shu Yi looked at him for 2 seconds and finally chose to compromise, then I will take a step back and call you Hu Lao. No matter what you say, I am still a fairy. Show me some respect. The immortal in the pot was not satisfied with this title and insisted that Shu Yi call himself a fairy. If you keep talking nonsense, I will put the lid back on you. Shu Yi was a little impatient, and raised the lid of the Julie pot and threatened. I see that you are very talented, little friend. The title of Mr. Hu is indeed a good one. Mr. Hu's expression changed instantly and he gave up on the spot. Shu Yi looked at the flexible weapon spirit in front of him with emptied eyes, and his eyes were even more speechless. But he still sighed heavily and asked, so, why did my consciousness enter this world in the pot? He was still a little confused as to why he was inexplicably involved in the world inside the pot after injecting energy into the Julie pot. But he also vaguely guessed that perhaps this was related to the light blue light flying out of the 2 virtual beasts. Because, little friend, you are the first person to restore the Julie Hu in the past 1,000 years. Mr. Hu looked at Shu Yi and responded calmly. The souls of the 2 previous shadow beasts were absorbed by the Julie pot, thus making the Julie pot function again after being dormant for many years. And after you inject the energy in your body into the Julie pot, you have completed the recognition of the master. That is to say, from now on, little friend, you are the owner of this Julie pot. The soul of the shadow beast. Shu Yi's eyes moved slightly, and he finally understood what the 2 light blue rays of light were. But facing the situation before him, he was still confused. Then what can this Julie Hu do for me after recognizing me as its master? Ha! After hearing this, Mr. Hu suddenly showed a proud look, when it comes to the abilities of my world in the pot, they are really countless. Immediately afterwards, he started talking eloquently like a live streaming online shopping salesman. Soak in the fairy spring, plant fairy grass, and raise spiritual beasts in captivity. Refining spiritual weapons, cultivating puppets, cultivating immortals. He said a lot in one breath, which made Shuyi feel excited and excited. Could it be said that this is the golden finger that he traveled through time? In this world filled with energy and abilities, he was able to choose a different path to immortality than ordinary people, and with power that spanned dimensions, he reached the top of the world. You know, the cultivator he knows is much stronger than this so-called awakened one. Are these the functions of the Julie pot? Shuyi asked excitedly. What are you thinking about? How is it possible? Without thinking, Mr. Hu rolled his eyes and responded with a speechless gesture. None of the above functions can be provided by Julie Hu. After all, this was not thousands of years ago, and the spiritual power of this planet has already degraded. Quote. The excitement on Shuyi's face receded, and he met Hu Lao's eyes, and there was a sudden silence in the air. After a moment, without saying a word, he directly picked up the lid and slammed it on the Julie pot. In an instant, the lid of the pot tumbled, and the old potter's voice came out. Hey, let me out, I just want to lighten the atmosphere, I'm joking. When Shuyi picked up the lid again, the old man emerged from the Julie pot again. He gasped for air and muttered in a low voice, young people today have no patience at all, and they can't even make jokes. It wasn't until he sensed Shuyi's eyes full of murderous intent that he coughed dryly and said quickly, ahem, the above functions can no longer be realized. But some basic functions are still retained by Julie Hu. For example, what? Shuyi looked at him sideways, and a touch of expectation emerged in his heart again. Sexy Hu Ling, want to chat online? Mr. Hu gave Shuyi a wink and winked. Stop, I'm not joking anymore. Seeing the lid of the pot in Shuyi's hand falling rapidly, the old man shouted loudly, no longer daring to have the slightest idea of joking. At this moment, Shuyi just felt like he was being teased. He squeezed the lid tightly and glared at the old man. He had made up his mind that as long as the old guy dared to make fun of him again, he would close the lid of the pot and let him out without saying anything. The old man, who was also keenly aware of the danger. He coughed dryly, looked a little more solemn, and finally said quickly, the current Julie Hu is still incomplete, and most of its functions can no longer be used. Unless you can reach the Kunlun realm, you can completely repair it through your abilities. Otherwise, if you want to completely repair the Julie pot, you must find its original incomplete fragments. Seeing that the impatience on Shuyi's face was getting stronger, the pot master did not dare to show off any more and quickly said, of course, although the Julie pot is incomplete, some basic functions can still be used. For example, little friend, I can help you see the conditions for unlocking the two special effects of your internal ability, natural selection. Other than that, the Julie pot still retains its original refining function. As long as you give me enough materials, little friend, I can control the Julie pot and refine it. In addition, Julie pot also has the most basic spatial function. The world in the pot is now 100 feet long and wide. You can access objects as you please, little friend. Of course, if you want to store a living body, you must make it lose consciousness. As long as the host provides enough energy, or finds the broken fragments of the Julie pot and repairs them, these functions will become more and more perfect. Listening to Mr. Hu's series of narrations, Shuyi's expression finally softened a bit. Even the functions described by Hu Lao were a bit surprising to him, even beyond his imagination. But the next moment, he suddenly reached out and grabbed the Julie Hu in the air, and pulled the old pot in front of him. Why do you know that the name of my ability is natural selection? And I've discovered since just now that you seem to know me very well. That's naturally because, after Julie Hu recognized its owner, I was able to sense the memory in your mind to a certain extent, little friend. Hu Lao quickly waved his hands and explained. Calculating the time, it has been decades since I last woke up. Everything I know about the current world comes from you, little friend. And seeing these conditions is one of my abilities. Okay, Shuyi thought for 2 seconds, then gently let go of the Julie Hu, choosing to trust Mr. Hu. After all, he named his abilities by himself. However, Hu Lao was able to call out the name accurately, and this was the only explanation that made sense. Soon, a look of curiosity appeared in his eyes, and he looked at Mr. Hu and asked, "Then can you tell me the specific effects of evolution and prodigy of natural selection?" Hu Lao floated back into the air and pretended to tidy up his clothes. Then, he stroked his long beard and replied, "As for the specific perception of the special effects of abilities, as long as you have a certain degree of control over your own energy, little friend, you will be able to perceive it on your own. But since you are so curious, little friend, I can inform you in advance. The SSS level ability you possess, the first special effect of natural selection evolution, can be used to upgrade your D level ability repair hand through some special materials. And if you want to upgrade repair hand from D level to C level, you need to use a star C meteorite to evolve." Shanghai meteorite, Shu Yi frowned, having never heard of this name before. "This is a special material that is only produced in the virtual realm." Hu Lao replied calmly, "With my current methods, I'm afraid it will be difficult to obtain." Virtual realm. Hearing this name, Shu Yi's brows jumped. Since 200 years ago, the strong human race Teoti drove the virtual demon out of the Dragon Kingdom. Those virtual demons have been trying to invade the Dragon Kingdom again. The method they used was to open the Void Realm and establish a special transmission channel to connect the world occupied by the virtual demon to the Dragon Kingdom. The virtual demon will take this opportunity to invade the Dragon Kingdom through the virtual realm, or send the virtual beast to the Dragon Kingdom through the virtual realm. So far, the emergence of the virtual realm has caused the Dragon Kingdom to suffer huge losses. The Void Hunters trained by the Dragon Kingdom will also locate the location of the Void Realm in some way, invade the Void Realm and destroy it before they invade the Dragon Kingdom. Sure enough, it is definitely not that easy to evolve the ability level permanently. Shu Yi took a deep breath and expected this result. After all, it is simply unheard of to increase the ability level. After awakening the ability, although the effect of the ability will increase with the level, its essential level is determined at the time of awakening and cannot be changed. This special effect of natural selection has never been recorded in the database of Dragon Kingdom. What about the third special effect, wizards? Shu Yi spoke calmly and asked again. The effect of wizard allows you to awaken and comprehend new D-level abilities after completing certain conditions. Hu Lao's eyes flashed with surprise, and the light in his eyes flickered. This also means that, little friend, you can theoretically master countless D-level abilities. And so far, if you want to understand the new D-level abilities, you need to. He seemed to have seen something, suddenly froze, and his expression became strange. Just what do you need? Shu Yi was most annoyed by such words when it came to ordinary situations, and couldn't help but frown. You need to personally kill a virtual beast in the rock realm. Hu Lao blinked and said the conditions he perceived. My little friend, the two virtual beasts you encountered today are both from the rock realm. You want me to personally kill a guy like the shadow beast? Shu Yi's expression suddenly became weird. Although he had successfully cooperated with Fang Xin before, he killed a shadow beast. But causing damage and killing him mainly relied on Fang Xin's Christmas gift. With his current skills, coupled with his ability Repair Hand, which has almost no combat effectiveness, it would be extremely difficult to kill a virtual beast in person. Shu Yi rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. Natural selection, although it is an SSS level ability, it seems very strong. But in fact, the only thing he can use now is the second special effect fading. The remaining two special effects cannot be turned on at all for him now. By the way, little friend, the second special effect of your ability fading will enter different cooling periods according to different upgrade levels. The cooling time required to upgrade the ability to C level and to SSS level is also very different. Hu Lao continued to add calmly, and little friend, you upgraded your Repair Hand to the SSS level before and repaired my body. This also means that the next time you use Tuifan, it will be at least a month later. The corners of Shu Yi's mouth twitched, and his eyes were speechless. Doesn't this mean that within this month, natural selection will be completely useless? Actually, there is another way to reset the cooldown time of fading. Oh, what can I do? Shu Yi's expression moved slightly, and he looked at Mr. Hu with a little expectancy. As long as you can successfully activate the third special effect, Wizard, you can reset the cooldown time of fading. You'd better shut up. Listening to the old man's nonsense, Shuyi rolled his eyes and put the lid on the pot. In a rental house somewhere. Fang Xin fluttered her eyelashes and finally opened her eyes. Oh, Sister Xin is awake, who had been sitting in front of the bed in a daze, noticed Fang Xin's movements, immediately showed excitement and shouted loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, two figures pushed open the door and quickly came to the bed. Xiaoyan, Sister Li, and seniors. Fang Xin looked forward confusedly, his consciousness still a little dazed, and he supported his body and sat up. She rubbed her brows, and the last picture in her mind was still the scene where he pushed Shuyi out and she was beaten away by the second shadow beast. Then the second shadow beast. We have already killed him. Guo Yan said with a smile and made a V sign gesture. By the way, there was a high school student next to me at that time. Fang Xin suddenly came back to his senses, showed a nervous expression, and asked quickly. As a void hunter of Longsha Academy, if you fail to protect civilians, that would be an extremely serious dereliction of duty. That guy, don't worry, he's fine. Guo Yan shrugged his shoulders and shook his head helplessly. He lied to the seniors and said he wanted to take care of you, but he ran away while we were collecting materials. HMPH. Sha Li snorted coldly, with disdain between his eyebrows, a man who only knows how to escape. Escape. Fang Xin showed a wry smile, and many images flashed through his eyes. Without him, I wouldn't have been able to kill that shadow beast. Sure enough, you didn't hunt that shadow beast alone. Cao Sha's eyes flashed. He had a lot of confusion about what happened last night. The high school student who had just awakened his abilities on the awakening day was actually able to cooperate with Fang Xin to hunt down a rock realm shadow beast. He was full of curiosity about Shuyi. And Fang Xin looked down at his clothes with a strange look in his eyes. I don't think he left directly. She pointed to her clothes and looked at the three people in front of the bed. My clothes have become new. Are the clothes new? Sha Li looked at Fang Xin's JK dress and tilted his head in confusion. Yes. Fang Xin looked at his brand new clothes, an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. In the battle just now, I was attacked many times by shadow beasts, and my clothes were in tatters. But now it's in perfect condition, like brand new. I think it was that guy who used his own ability to restore my clothes. Is his ability an S-level ability, Reverse Current River? Cao Sha touched his chin, a glimmer of light flashing in his eyes. This is a space-time guidance type of ability. If it is cultivated, the future can be promising. I don't think so. Fang Xin shook his head with a strange expression, recalling the abilities Shuyi had used and the energy fluctuations on his body. If I sense it correctly, his ability should be a D-level ability, Repair Hand. What did you say? Guo Yan on the side stared wide-eyed. The D-level ability that has just been awakened can actually cooperate with you to kill a shadow beast in the rock realm. The curiosity in Cao Sha's eyes became more and more intense. D-level abilities are not the weakest abilities. As long as the realm is improved and the ability user develops their own abilities, they are not necessarily inferior to S-level abilities. But he had never heard that a high school student who had just awakened his D-level ability on the awakening day could help Fang Xin kill a shadow beast. I'm becoming more and more interested in this guy. Cao Sha smiled slightly. On this mission, the principal once mentioned to me that if we meet a talented high school student, we can directly let him enter without taking the exam. Didn't the principal want you, senior, to find a few awakened ones above S level? Guo Yan tilted his head and looked at Cao Sha, a little confused. The battle against the virtual demon is definitely not measured by ability level. Cao Sha responded calmly. Compared to the so-called talent, actual combat ability is the most important. From my personal point of view, the guy just now is very talented. Later, Fang Xin, you will tell me all the details of the battle. I want to see how that boy cooperated with you to kill the shadow beast. Everything about that high school student is fine. Suddenly, Sha Li on the side said coldly and showed the screen of his mobile phone. News just came from the school's technical department. The appearance of two shadow beasts in Jincheng this time is not an accident. She looked at everyone calmly and said in a very calm voice, a week ago, the 38th hunting team that went to suppress the virtual realm was completely wiped out. They used their lives to seriously injure a virtual demon from the mountain realm. And that virtual demon has left the virtual realm and entered the Dragon Kingdom. In addition, due to the turmoil in the virtual realm, 2 shadow beasts and a rock wolf left the virtual realm together with the virtual demon. You mean, the 2 shadow beasts we encountered ran away from the virtual realm? Fang Xin said in surprise, shocked by the news. Since the shadow beast will appear in Jincheng, it means. Guo Yan's quickly thought of other things, and his face changed slightly. The seriously injured void demon is most likely hiding in Jincheng. Cao Sha's eyes flashed coldly and he quickly came to a conclusion. Under Hu Lao's guidance, Shu Yi's consciousness finally retracted like a tide and returned to his body. He slowly opened his eyes filled with thoughts, and he didn't know what he was thinking about. In the Julie Hu just now, he obtained a lot of information from the old man. Even if it is placed among the Ju treasures, the Julie pot is mysterious enough to be ranked among the top. In addition, it has its own world in a pot and the ability to absorb souls. Its existence has a fatal attraction for virtual beasts. It was precisely because of this that the 2 shadow beasts from before noticed Shu Yi and rushed towards him as if they were crazy. Of course, after absorbing the souls of the 2 shadow beasts, Hu Lao, as the weapon spirit, woke up and had already concealed the aura of Julie Hu. Therefore, Shu Yi could reluctantly rest assured that he would no longer be chased by the virtual beast because of the Julie pot. At this time, his mind was completely relaxed, and a feeling of exhaustion poured into Shu Yi's limbs. He urgently needed some time to process the large amount of information obtained in a short period of time. No matter, let's get some sleep first. Shu Yi turned over and lay on the bed, placing the Julie pot casually on the bedside table. A strong feeling of exhaustion kept coming. A few minutes later, he fell directly into sleep. That night, after not dreaming for a long time, he once again had the dream he had repeated several times. It's not so much a dream as it is a memory hidden in his heart. An extremely profound memory. In the dilapidated park, Shu Yi was sitting on a swing with a girl, rocking gently. The girl smiled cheerfully and swung the swing vigorously into the wind, her hair fluttering in the wind. Under the sunlight, her whole figure seemed to be radiating. Beside her, Shu Yi looked sleepy, rocking the swing very slowly like an old man sitting on a rocking chair. Shu Yi, thank you so much just now. Suddenly, the girl jumped up and fell from the swing. She spread her hands to stabilize her body and looked at Shu Yi with a smile. Ah, it's just a little effort. Shu Yi yawned and didn't care. Tell me about you. Why do you always have a world-weary face and no energy at all? The girl came to Shu Yi lively and pouted dissatisfiedly. Faced with the girl's muttering, Shu Yi just laughed awkwardly and replied in a complaining tone, if you appear in a strange world inexplicably, you will be as world-weary as me. A strange world. The girl tilted her head in confusion, her face full of confusion. It's nothing, I just said it casually. Shu Yi narrowed his eyes and casually prevaricated. Don't you have any dreams? The girl sat back on the swing and asked curiously. Dream. Shu Yi closed his eyes and looked ahead with a bored expression. Only children who have no concept of reality can have such a nihilistic thing as dreams. Ha 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 ha, you are too negative. The girl smiled sweetly, not caring about Shu Yi's words at all. She swayed gently on the swing, and her eyes seemed to shine with dazzling brilliance under the refraction of the sun. Ever since I was little, I have always had a dream. Oh, what is your dream? The girl's hair was swinging in the air, her whole body was bathed in the sun, and her smile was extremely pure. I hope to become an awakened one on the awakening day 3 years from now. When the time comes, I will definitely join the Academy of Awakeners, work hard to become a void hunter, and fight to completely eliminate the void demon, to protect our country and to protect all people. When Shu Yi opened his eyes, it was already past 8 in the morning. The memory from 3 years ago once again appeared in his mind in the form of a dream. Hunting the void. He turned over and the girl's words came to his mind again. A boring dream. After briefly washing up, Shu Yi returned to the desk. Due to the battle that took place last night, he was too exhausted, and he did not have time to sort out a lot of intelligence and information. His 10 fingers touched each other, his elbows were placed on the table, his thumbs were gently placed between his eyebrows, creating a triangular hollow, and he gently closed his eyes. This is his habitual action when thinking, which can calm his mind. According to yesterday's test, the applicable range of the repair hand is about 10 meters. Although he closed his eyes, Shuyi quickly constructed the scene from last night in his mind, with every detail being extremely detailed. 10 meters away, the damaged parts cannot be connected, and the object itself can only be repaired with energy. Within a range of 10 meters, the damaged parts can be connected through energy, and the other parts can be absorbed using the part in my palm as the origin. I was able to successfully kill the shadow beast yesterday because of this characteristic of the repair hand. The effect of Fang Shin's ability Christmas gift should be to turn touched objects into bombs. First let her throw half of the cobblestones, and then I will use my repair hand to recover the half of the cobblestones. When it passes through the shadow beast's abdomen, I will release my ability to blast it directly through its abdomen and kill it. Well, this also means that abilities are not in the form of coverage, but can be superimposed. His brain was as organized as a library. The information revealed and tested during last night's battle was quickly put on the bookshelf and memorized by him. For Shuyi, maintaining such reflection and summary at all times is the trump card for surviving in this world. After a moment, he let go of his hands, stood up, and stretched lazily. Then, he took out the Julie pot from his pocket, placed it on the table, gently opened the lid, and knocked. However, Julie pot didn't respond at all, and there was dead silence. That old guy lied to me. Shuyi looked strange and looked down at the Julie pot, but there was still no movement. He was silent for 2 seconds, then suddenly grabbed the Julie pot, pointed it at the mouth of the pot and shouted loudly, "Master Hu, come out." Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, a cloud of mist exploded from the mouth of the pot. Hu Lao's figure appeared, with a look of horror on his face and a trace of saliva at the corner of his mouth. He quickly glanced around, put his hands on his chest, put on a look like Ip Man, and asked nervously, "What happened? Is the world ending?" After a few seconds, his eyes met Shuyi's, and he suddenly reacted with excitement. "It turns out to be you, little friend. Can you please stop shouting at the mouth of the pot next time? My ears are about to explode." He yawned and finally recovered. "Is this what you said, that you can be summoned by knocking on the pot body?" Shuyi looked at this unreliable weapon spirit with empty eyes, speechless in his eyes. Ahem. Mr. Hu blushed and touched his beard awkwardly. "Didn't I accidentally fall asleep? Didn't I hear? You are a weapon spirit and you still need to sleep. You also know that I have just woken up not long ago, and my strength is still very weak. I need to sleep to restore my mental strength." The more he spoke, the more guilty he felt. He cleared his throat quickly and changed the topic with a very stiff voice. "That little friend, did you call me out? What's the matter? The refining function of the Julihu that you didn't finish talking about yesterday." Shuyi stopped arguing with the old man and went straight to the point. "Tell me again." "Ah." Mr. Hu blinked his eyes, and then responded, "One of the functions that Julihu still has today is refining. However, because the pot body is damaged, the current refining function is not perfect. As long as you, my friend, can find an object with energy and use the soul of the void beast as a binding agent, I can activate the refining function and refine it. According to current theory, what can be refined from the Julie pot should be called Ju Bao. In other words, as long as I can find something with energy, you can refine Ju Bao, right?" Shuyi raised his eyebrows and asked quickly. Now the Julihu is not powerful enough. If there is not much energy for refining the materials, the best it can do is to refine an incomplete Ju Bao, which has no shape and can hardly exert its power. Hu Lao replied quickly. "To you, little friend, this kind of incomplete thing should be no different from scrap metal." Shuyi's eyes flickered, but he didn't care about this matter at all. As if he had other ideas, he continued to ask, "What kind of things are more likely to have energy attached to them?" It stands to reason that the longer an object is stored, the more likely it is that energy will be attached to it. Understood. After Shu Zai got the information he wanted, he closed the lid of the pot without saying a word and put the Julie pot into his pocket. "Hey, little friend, where are you going?" The old man's dull voice came from the pot, making a loud sound. "Antique Street," Shuyi said without looking back, but a strange light flashed in his eyes. "I want to test the ability and characteristics of repair hand." In a rental house, Cao Sha and the four of them stayed up all night. Their eyes were all red, and they were constantly flipping through various information. There was a map in front of them, and the map was full of scribbles. What did the technical department say? Cao Sha stared at the map of Jincheng in front of him, scanning back and forth. According to the on-site investigation and judgment, the virtual demon's ability belongs to the mental influence category. Guo Yan looked at the content on his phone and replied tiredly, although the 38th Army of the Hunting Shu was completely wiped out, it also caused extremely serious damage to them. Judging from the energy traces, it is seriously injured. If you want to recover from the injury, you must replenish energy as soon as possible. According to his escape, a full 8 days have passed. Since the 2 shadow beasts have appeared in Jincheng, there is a 90% chance that he is in Jincheng. He should not have enough strength to escape elsewhere. HMPH. Cao Sha listened to Guo Yan's report, and the coldness in his eyes became more and more obvious. For virtual demons, the most efficient way to restore energy is to hunt the awakened ones. If I guess correctly, he deliberately released those 2 shadow beasts in order to investigate the distribution of awakened people in Jincheng. For him, time is life. This also means that within a short period of time, he will definitely launch an attack to hunt down the awakened ones in order to recover from his injuries. But Jincheng is so big, how can we be sure where he wants to attack? Fang Xin's injuries were mostly recovered at this moment. She frowned and sat cross-legged on the bed with a look of annoyance on her face. There are only 4 of us hunters in the entire Jincheng. That's still a virtual demon from the mountain realm, let alone a wolf from the rock realm by his side. The rest of the void hunters have their own missions and have no time to support us. Sha Li's tone was as cold as ever, and there was no unnecessary expression on his face. Besides, the senior is also in the mountain realm, so he is strong enough to deal with a seriously injured virtual demon. The first thing we need to do now is to locate the virtual demon and kill it before it launches an attack. So, Fang Xin protracted his tone and pursed his lips. How on earth can we locate the location of the virtual demon? Unless it shows up on its own initiative, we will search for it throughout Jin City, just like looking for a needle in a haystack. Think about it from another angle. Cao Sha, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, since we can't locate the virtual demon, let's think about it, where might it go? If he wants to recover from his injuries now, he must absorb a large amount of energy from the awakened ones. In other words, the place where he may attack is where the awakened people gathered during this period. Guo Yan's eyes lit up and he immediately followed Cao Sha's train of thought. If that's the case, he quickly swiped on his phone and then displayed the map. In the past 2 days, there have been about 6 venues for events and gatherings in the city. Most of the people gathered in these activity venues are ordinary people and some ordinary awakened people. Cao Sha shook his head lightly. Depending on the level of the awakened person's abilities, the energy they can provide to the virtual demon is also different. That is to say, in addition to quantity, quality is also important to it. He quickly drew 10 red circles on the map in front of him. Don't forget, the awakening day has just passed. Different high schools have different graduation ceremony times for awakened ones. Except for today's public holiday, there are a total of 10 high schools that will hold graduation ceremonies tomorrow. Graduation ceremony, a large number of awakened people, and the quality is generally much better than ordinary awakened people. Sha Li murmured, his eyes shining with light. Not bad. Cao Sha looked at the map with a solemn expression. He wants to recover from his injuries and attacking the school is definitely the best choice. And what we have to do is, before tomorrow, analyze and determine where the virtual demon is trying to attack, and use this to find where it is hiding. According to the data from previous years, the quality of awakened students in Jincheng number 1 middle school should be the highest among these 10 universities. Guo Yan analyzed in a low voice, it is very likely that the virtual demon will launch an attack on number 1 middle school. The intelligence of the virtual demon is no less than that of humans. Sha Li said coldly, what if he considered that we would go to look for it near number 1 middle school and deliberately chose a university farther away? What Sister Li said makes sense. Fang Xin nodded in agreement, the one farthest from number 1 middle school should be number 5 middle school in the south of the city. If we intercept him at number 5 middle school, we might really be able to intercept him. Then what if he has reached this point and continues to attack the universities in the city with counter logic? Sha Li continued to retort, By then, if we rush back from the south of the city, it may be too late. Hey, aren't you a pure bully? Fang Xin finally reacted and looked at Xia Li with the corner of his mouth twitching. If you follow your logic, it will be endless. What Xia Li wants to express is that we cannot judge the location of the attack by thinking about the other party's thoughts. Cao Sha spoke calmly and explained to Xia Li. If you want to truly determine the other party's purpose, you should analyze it from more objective clues. Fang Xin, you need to use your brain more instead of just relying on your fighting instincts every time. Fang Xin pouted in dissatisfaction and muttered, then can't we let these high schools delay their graduation ceremonies? For example, only 1 or 2 schools are scheduled to have graduation ceremonies every day, so that we can defend better. Sister Xin, you really should use your brain more. Guo Yan laughed twice and looked over. If we do this, the void demon will be wary. At that time, he can choose to do the next best thing and attack somewhere else far away from the school first. In this way, not only will our position be exposed, but we will also have to be restrained by the other party. Okay, how dare you call me stupid? Fang Xin's cheeks turned red, and he hit Guo Yan with his fist in anger. She stood up from the chair and walked towards the door angrily. I'll leave this kind of brain-shaking thing to you. I'll go out and buy you breakfast. Fang Xin's eyes were filled with boredom as he left the rental house. I thought this trip was just an ordinary hunting mission, but I didn't expect that a virtual demon ran out of the virtual realm. This is completely different from fighting in a virtual realm. The other party is lurking in the city and may attack civilians at any time. On the contrary, they are a little constrained, and they even need to predict the possible location of the virtual demon in advance. And this kind of thing that requires brain power gives her a headache just thinking about it. For some reason, Xu Yi's face from yesterday suddenly appeared in her mind. That guy seems to have a pretty good brain. She muttered to herself, with his brain, he might be able to deduce the location of the virtual demon's attack. And the senior is also very interested in him. Just as she was muttering, a familiar figure suddenly appeared in her peripheral vision, holding a piece of bread in her mouth and strolling slowly along the street. That guy looks a lot like the high school student yesterday. Much like, Fang Xin's eyes widened, and that familiar face came into view. She would definitely remember it. Boom. The next moment, she stepped onto the ground with both feet, and her whole body rushed out like an arrow from a string, and rushed towards the figure. What the hell? Xu Yi seemed to have noticed something, turned his head, and the bread in his mouth almost fell to the ground. He was shocked, and without saying a word, he grabbed the bread, turned around and ran away quickly. At this moment, he was wailing loudly in his heart. Why don't you just go out to an antique street? Why are you so unlucky to meet this JK girl who is not very smart? If you get entangled with her, you will probably get into some kind of trouble. Xu Yi quickly shuttled through the alleyways, relying on his familiarity with the terrain to make a few quick turns, and Fang Xin disappeared behind him. Turning to look at the empty place behind him, he finally breathed a sigh of relief and patted his chest, thanks to her bad brain. If you chase me like this, you won't be able to catch me in the next life. Boom. A sound of breaking wind sounded from above his head. Xu Yi's expression froze and he turned his head dully. Boom. With a roar, Fang Xin fell from the sky and stepped on the ground hard, shattering the ground beneath his feet. She looked like a bad girl, glaring at Xu Yi fiercely. You just said, who is not smart? This sister, who are you? Xu Yi had a confused expression on his face and looked at the angry Fang Xin in front of him in confusion and asked. You kid, you're still pretending to be with me, right? Fang Xin pressed her knuckles and walked towards him. I think sister, you may have recognized the wrong person. In fact, I have a twin brother. Xu Yi blinked and spoke sincerely. Then why did you run away when you saw me? I am the sprint champion in school. My legs suddenly felt itchy just now. I don't know why, but I just want to run 2 steps. If you dare to say nonsense again, believe it or not, I will blow up your hairline by 3 centimeters. Woman, spare your life. After hearing this, Xu Yi's expression changed drastically, and he quickly lowered his head and admitted his mistake. The hairline is a man's biggest enemy. Fang Xin stepped forward, without saying a word, stretched out his hand, clamped Xu Yi's head under his arm, and rubbed his hair several times with his hands. I've planted a bomb on your head. Come with me honestly. I happen to want to ask you something. Shu Yi's eyelids twitched, he shrugged helplessly and followed Fang Xin. Where should we go to chat? That's the breakfast stall. Fang Xin casually pointed to the breakfast stall not far away and took Shu Yi over. Boss, 3 bowls of tofu puffs and 6 fried dough sticks. She shouted loudly, sitting on her chair. Ah, Shu Yi blinked, a bowl is actually enough, one can't eat that much. Fang Xin glanced at Shu Yi, and then shouted to the boss again, 4 bowls of tofu bread, plus 2 fried dough sticks. Shu Yi. After a while, the owner of the breakfast stall came over with a plate and placed 4 bowls of tofu puffs and fried dough sticks on the table. Fang Xin quickly brought 3 of the bowls in front of him and started eating them on the spot. Shu Yi took a few bites casually, but his eyes were looking back and forth around him. I advise you not to think about running away. Fang Xin spoke vaguely, with a calm expression. The range of my ability is 25 meters. It's okay if I let you run 20 meters first. Is it really okay to just tell the effect of your ability like this? Shu also gave up the idea of running away and looked at Fang Xin at the opposite table with empty eyes. What does it have to do with it? Fang Xin swallowed hard, her beautiful eyes fixed on Shu Yi's face, and her tone was calm. Anyway, you already figured out this distance last night, didn't you? Actually, I'm not that powerful. Shu Yi's eyelids twitched and he subconsciously wanted to excuse himself. This sentence is not a question, but a statement. Fang Xin bit off a piece of fried dough stick and stared at Shu Yi. Shu Yi felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, feeling a chill rising all over his body. Although Fang Xin seemed to be having trouble with his brain, his intuition was frighteningly accurate. Before he could speak, another voice came from the other side. Tell me your analysis of my abilities last night. If you dare to hide it, you should know what I will do. Her expression made her want to bite off Shu Yi's scalp. Shu Yi's scalp was numb. He hesitated for a moment, and then he said honestly, your ability should be the ability to turn objects you touch into bombs. The destructive power is similar to that of a grenade, and the damage range will vary depending on the size of the object. You can turn up to 3 objects into bombs at the same time, and you can detonate them separately. If you choose to build a new bomb, the first bomb will be replaced. The distance range I judged as between 23 and 26 meters, and it is not accurate to the distance of 25 meters. But every time you snap your fingers before using your abilities, I'm not sure whether this is because you want to look cool or because of the limitations of your abilities. Fang Xin's expression didn't change much, but he was secretly shocked. Although she relied on intuition, she probably sensed that Shu Yi had already made some guesses about her abilities. But she didn't expect that what Shu Yi deduced was almost the same as his real ability. At the same time, she had finished the first bowl of tofu. Wiping her mouth casually, she smiled and looked at Shu Yi. Snapping your fingers is a necessary condition for me to release my ability. You should have learned about it on the awakening day. Abilities above D level and below S level will have more or less side effects or restrictions. My ability is an A-level ability, Christmas gift, and naturally it has corresponding restrictions. Other than that, your judgment of my abilities is almost all correct. Interesting, so interesting. She looked Shu Yi up and down, as if admiring a rare treasure. Shu Yi was a little frightened by this look, and immediately showed a vigilant expression, with goosebumps all over his body. You really have a good brain. Fang Xin put away his eyes, started to drink the second bowl of tofu, and continued to eat fried dough sticks. Exactly, I have some things here that I need your help to analyze. If you can analyze 1 or 2 things about yesterday, I won't pursue it with you. The blue and white stripes flashed through Shu Yi's mind, and he muttered awkwardly, that's not what I meant to see. A killing intent immediately locked onto his body. His expression froze, and he quickly forced out a smile and said quickly, Sha, please speak. If there is anything I can do to help, I'll be happy to help you. Fang Xin rolled his eyes, but quickly told Shu Yi everything they had encountered and their current predicament. Originally, the virtual demon was hiding in the city. In order to avoid causing panic, it could not be told to the ordinary people. But based on Fang Xin's observation of Shu Yi and her contact last night, she determined that Shu Yi was trustworthy and had a good mind. Not only that, he is also a current high school student, and he must have a more detailed understanding of the relationship between colleges and universities. Shu Yi originally had a casual expression, but after hearing the word virtual demon, from Fang Xin's mouth, his expression suddenly perked up and he listened to the whole thing very seriously. Fang Xin was eating while talking. He had already finished his third bowl of tofu curd and only had 2 fried dough sticks left. After listening to her narration, Shu Yi had a deep expression on his face, placed his fingers between his eyebrows, and made his usual contemplative gesture. After a moment, he pondered and asked, "So, you are now confused about which university the virtual demon will choose to attack?" "Yes, do you have any ideas?" Fang Xin answered vaguely while chewing something. "If I were him," Shu Yi spread his hands, shrugged his shoulders, and replied in a rather relaxed tone, "There is a 90% chance of choosing number 3 middle school. 9% chance." Fang Xin was very surprised by this probability and looked over with wide eyes. You know, they had just conducted an analysis in the rental house and were completely confused about the situation. But Shu was able to make such a firm judgment just by listening to what she said. "What's the reason?" "The reason is very simple," Shu Yi said as he opened the city map on his mobile phone and displayed it in front of Fang Xin. "Cao Sha's analysis is not wrong. If the virtual demon really needs to hunt the awakened ones to recover from his injuries, as you said, then he will definitely choose to do it at the graduation ceremony of the university. And there are 10 colleges and universities that will hold graduation ceremonies tomorrow. Among them, number 1 middle school, number 2 middle school and experimental middle school are located in the center of the city. No, 3 middle school, number 6 middle school and number 12 middle school are located in the west of the city. The rest of the schools are evenly distributed in the east and south areas of the city." He zoomed out the map, turned on the drawing function, and crossed out 4 universities directly. The first thing to exclude are these 4 universities. The 2 schools in the east of the city are located in remote locations, with no one around, and the quality of the awakened people is generally not high. Instead of choosing to go here, it would be more convenient for him to find a square. The number 5 middle school and number 7 middle school in the south of the city are relatively empty because they are too far away and there is no downtown area around them. Fang Xin looked at the map and frowned in confusion. If that's the case, wouldn't it be better to choose the 2 schools in the south of the city? Wouldn't it be nice if it just ran away after the hunt was completed? Let me ask you, with your methods, can you sense energy fluctuations when he starts hunting? Shu Yi looked at Fang Xin and said calmly, "That's natural. If you sense the energy fluctuation and rush to the south of the city as soon as possible, how long will it take?" "About half an hour. In half an hour, he will not only hunt the awakened ones, but also prepare to escape and deal with you." Shu Yi tapped the table lightly, his tone was quite relaxed. "Once it appears, you will quickly locate it and it will be difficult to escape. But the situation you mentioned is the same in other schools." Fang Xin frowned, with confusion in his eyes. "I have already said that there is no downtown area near the 2 schools in the south of the city." Shu Yi responded calmly. "How would you feel if he broke into the downtown area after attacking several schools in the city?" "My hands are tied and it's difficult to pursue." Fang Xin's expression changed and he immediately understood the whole story. So the so-called geographical remoteness is not an advantage at all for it. Shu Yi said lightly, "On the contrary, it is a trap to bury it." As for the 3 high schools in the city, due to the geographical environment, they have relatively high teacher and student resources. This also means that during their graduation ceremony, more teachers from colleges and universities will come to recruit students. Among these teachers, it is inevitable that there will be some awakened ones with fighting power. In addition, some awakened people working in nearby government departments can provide immediate support. If he chooses to attack the high school in the city center, he will get himself into a quagmire and find it difficult to escape. Therefore, the only ones he can choose in the end are these 3 schools in the west of the city. These 3 schools are not far from each other and are surrounded by downtown areas. The most central number 3 middle school is connected in all directions and connects the surrounding areas. If I were it, 9 times out of 10, I would choose to launch an attack from this school. If you launch a radiation search centered on number 3 middle school, you will most likely be able to find traces of the virtual demon." Shu Yi finished the analysis in one breath, took a breath, and then added, "By the way, I am a student of number 3 middle school." Fang Xin was originally excited when he heard it, but he felt that everything Xu Yi said made sense. But after hearing this, she looked at the opposite side suspiciously and said slightly questioningly, "You don't want to trick us into coming near your school to protect you, do you?" "How is that possible?" Xu Yi raised his voice and looked at Fang Xin with his eyes raised. "You are using the heart of a gentleman to save the belly of a villain. It seems like you've positioned yourself very accurately." "Ha." Xu Yi put away his phone and hummed, "I can make this judgment. Of course, there is an important reason. We were the two shadow beasts we encountered in the old city. If it's what you said, those two shadow beasts were released by the virtual demon. Then he is most likely hiding near the old city. And the high schools closest to the old city are these 3 schools in the west of the city. What you said does make sense." Fang Xin felt suddenly enlightened and couldn't help but touch his chin. It is difficult to draw this conclusion solely based on the appearance of virtual beasts in the old city. But combined with Xu Yi's previous analysis, the location where they encountered the virtual beast last night can become important evidence. "I will report all your analysis to the seniors." Fang Xin finally finished the last fried dough stick and patted his belly with satisfaction. "If your inference is correct, we only need to investigate all the places in the west of the city where virtual demons may exist before tomorrow, and we will be able to prevent him from attacking the school. Now that I have analyzed this matter for you, can you also answer a few questions for me?" Xu Yi's eyes suddenly became sharper and he looked at Fang Xin and asked. "Of course, you deserve it. I want to know whether abilities have levels and what are the criteria for judging them." Xu Yi quickly asked a question that he cared about very much. "It seems you know a lot." Fang Xin raised his eyebrows and smiled, and replied leisurely, "The level of ability is fixed upon awakening and cannot be improved. But the awakened ones can increase the effect and scope of their abilities by improving their own energy realm. As long as the energy is strong enough, even AD level ability can exert powerful effects. Based on the country's measurements and judgments over many years, we have roughly divided energy into 6 realms. Energy is like stones. It accumulates randomly in the body. It is small and scattered. This is the first realm, stone realm. Energy is like a pile of stones, concentrated and compact. This is the second realm, rock realm. The energy is like a mountain made of thousands of rocks, high and thick. This is the third realm, mountain realm. Energy is like mountains turning into peaks, towering and dense. This is the fourth realm, peak realm. The energy is like a group of peaks forming a ridge, continuous and continuous. This is the fifth realm, Ling realm. And above these 5 realms, there is the most powerful 6th realm, Kunlun. This also means that my own energy is like the legendary fairy mountain Kunlun, boundless and ethereal, which means boundless. Regarding the realm system of energy, this was the first time Xu Yi heard about it. He thought for a moment and then quickly asked, "If you want to step into the rock realm, how long does it normally take?" "It can take as little as a few months, or as long as..." Fang Xin chuckled and did not continue. But Xu Yi quickly understood what she meant. "I understand. Only those who have stepped into the rock realm are qualified to become void hunters. Most of the awakened ones will stay in the stone realm for a long time." "You understand quickly." Fang Xin nodded, "But there are exceptions. If the awakened person performs extremely well in the stone realm, or has abilities above S level, he is eligible to join the hunter team in advance and become a hunter." "How is the so-called hunting team generally composed?" Xu Yi continued to ask, unwilling to miss this opportunity to collect information. "These contents are not too big a secret for the awakened ones." Therefore, Fang Xin had no worries and answered Xu Yi's questions knowingly. "Today, there are 10 awakening academies in the country that are qualified to establish hunting teams. Among them, according to ranking, each college has 10 hunting teams. According to the ranking of the academy, the hunting team's serial number is continuously postponed. That is to say, there are currently 100 hunting teams in Dragon Kingdom. The composition of its members is roughly headed by a captain from Mountain Realm and assisted by about 3 to 5 members from Rock Realm. When the hunting team is established, the responsibilities and abilities of each member need to complement each other, and the entire team needs to cooperate with each other. The 5th hunting team we are in is one of the hunting teams of Longxia Academy." After saying this, Fang Xin looked at Xu Yi with a smile but not a smile. "Do you have any other questions?" "No more for now," Xu Yi replied calmly. In his mind, he had a new assessment of the strength of the rock realm void beast. That's just right. I have something else I want to ask you. Fang Xin suddenly blinked and looked directly into Shu Yi's eyes. I refuse. Shu Yi responded almost instantly without raising his eyelids. Hey, I haven't asked yet. Fang Xin was stunned for a moment and pouted dissatisfied. Don't you just want to invite me to join Longxia Academy? A lazy look appeared on Shu Yi's face again, and he had already seen through Fang Xin's thoughts. You can see this. Fang Xin stared in surprise, with confusion on his face, and why did you refuse? Longxia Academy is ranked number 1 among the Awakened Academy. Others are breaking their heads to enter the Awakened Academy, why do you refuse? If you are willing, I can ask the senior to recommend you and you can enter without taking the exam. If a tree is beautiful in the forest, the wind will destroy it. Shu Yi replied calmly, joining Longxia Academy may not be a good thing. While there are high returns, the risk factor also increases greatly. As far as I know, the casualty rate of Longxia Academy's awakened people should be among the top 3. And the people from the Void Demon Council especially like to target the students of Longxia College. Do you even know about the Void Demon Council? The weirdness in Fang Xin's eyes became more and more intense. Ever since she met Shu Yi yesterday, she felt that this high school student was so mysterious that it confused her. Isn't it just an organization established by a group of lackeys of the Void Demon? They specifically target the awakened, and use coercion and inducement to trick them into joining the parliament and serving the Void Demon. Shu Yi said casually. He had looked through a lot of information about the awakened in the government database. The matter of the Void Demon Council was what he read at that time. A genius like me, once he emerges, will be targeted very quickly. You are not self-effacing at all. Fang Xin looked at him with squinting eyes. He had never seen such a narcissistic person before. Obviously yesterday you were pretending to be an ordinary high school student, and trying to fool me. And there is another reason. Shu also drank the tofu in front of him in one gulp and stood up from the breakfast stall. His expression became quite cold at this moment, making Fang Xin feel very strange. I hate hollow hunters. To me, this is just a group of people who come together for fame, wealth and their own desires. You enjoy privileges higher than those who are awakened, but you are unable to perform your due responsibilities at all. With all due respect, I don't think joining such an organization would do me any good. Hey, what are you talking about? Fang Xin couldn't accept that someone was insulting the Huxu team in this way, and he immediately started to slap the case angrily. We are fighting against the Shu demons in order to protect the people. Do you know how many void hunters die every year because of fighting against void demons? Using the people you should protect as bait to kill virtual beasts and add merit to yourself, can such a person be considered protecting the people? Shu Yi didn't know why, but his voice suddenly rose a bit, and his emotions also fluctuated slightly. He and Fang Xin looked at each other, and the sound of the argument even attracted the attention of the diners around them. Sorry. Shu Yi quickly calmed down and put on that indifferent and lazy look on his face again. I have already told you what you want to ask about. I'm just a selfish person who only cares about my own safety. So I will not join Longxia Academy. I just want to be an ordinary awakened person quietly. Hopefully this is the last time we see each other. Thank you for treating me to breakfast. He nodded slightly, turned around and left. Fang Xin stood there, his chest rising and falling with anger. For her, hunting the void has been her dream since she was a child. In her opinion, this is a sacred pursuit, worth her life. But this mere high school student would slander the identity of a hunter like this. Hunters are not the selfish people you say they are. Fang Xin caught up with Shu Yi and shouted in a firm tone. It is our duty to protect the people and hunt the void beasts. Ah, really? Shu Yi stopped and responded calmly. Then I hope you can find the virtual demon within a day and stop him from attacking the school in advance. We will definitely do it. Fang Xin said firmly, not knowing whether he wanted to assure Shu Yi or swear to himself. No one will be harmed by the void demon. I will risk my life to protect everyone. That's great. Shu Yi's tone remained calm and he walked forward again. His attitude made Fang Xin clenched his fists angrily and stared ahead with great annoyance. She waved her fist angrily, stared at Shu Yi's retreating back, and murmured, "The hunter is not what you said." Jincheng, in a house in the west of the city. Suck. Call. Heavy breathing sounds were heard. On the big bed, a man wrapped in black energy was sitting cross-legged, breathing out continuously. His face looked the same as that of an ordinary person, but between his eyebrows, there seemed to be a jet-black gem embedded in it. The gem was buried deep between his brows, constantly reflecting jet-black light as he breathed. Puff! Suddenly, the man turned pale, opened his eyes suddenly, and spit out a large mouthful of blood in front of him. Damn the Void Hunter! There was a fierce glint in his eyes, and he cursed in a low voice with an extremely dull voice. We must replenish energy and recover from injuries as soon as possible. Both Void Beasts were killed by Void Hunters. They will definitely take precautions in advance and search for my location. But these Void Hunters are average in strength. He jumped off the bed, with a sneer on his lips, and suddenly stretched out his right palm. In the palm of his hand, a mass of mist continued to surge, and the appearance of a ferocious wolf spirit could be vaguely glimpsed. With this gangly wolf, it should be enough to make the group of hunters miserable. The information collected by the Void Beast is almost complete, and the environment around the school has been figured out. The next step is to wait for the time to come. Turning his palms to put away the mist, the man waved his fist vigorously and his eyes became fierce. Brother, this time, I will definitely prove myself to you. Call. At the intersection of Antique Street, Shuyi took a deep breath to calm down. My emotions just got a little out of control. He touched his nose, shrugged his shoulders, and showed a casual look on his face again. It's better to focus on the matter in front of you first. Gently shaking his head to drive away distracting thoughts, Shuyi stepped into the Antique Street. As the most famous street in the old city in the west of the city. It was not yet noon, and the place was already crowded with people. There are countless vendors setting up stalls on both sides. The vast majority of them are scraps of scrap metal collected from who knows where, and they just want to put them here for opportunistic purposes and see if they can deceive the wrongdoer. But among these junks, there are often one or two valuable treasures. Once this kind of accidental event is publicized, people will flock here again. Many people come here with the idea of looking for treasures from the garbage. And they are often harvested by profiteers, and they are even complacent, thinking that they have found a treasure. The more someone wants to take advantage of something, the easier it is to be deceived. In Shuyi's opinion, this kind of mentality is similar to that of people who want to get rich overnight through lottery tickets. He walked in the street, ignoring the shouts of the vendors on both sides. Instead, he put his hand in his pocket and knocked lightly. A few seconds later, a ray of mist ran straight up his sleeves, and finally enveloped his ears slightly. How is it? Can you feel it? Shuyi moved his lips and asked in a voice that only he could hear. Fortunately, there was a lot of noise around him, so no one noticed his strange behavior. Hu Lao's voice came out from the mist, ringing in Shuyi's ears very clearly. The energy contained in such ancient objects is difficult to search through energy fluctuations. I can only perceive it roughly. You go to the west first and have a look. Hearing this, Shuyi immediately turned around and headed west. After passing through countless stalls, Mr. Hu said with a slightly excited body, "Stop. In the stall to your right, there is an ancient object with energy attached. Although the energy is not very sufficient, it should be able to meet your needs, little friend." Oh, Shu also stopped and looked to the right. On the stall at his feet, a middle-aged man with sharp teeth and a sharp mouth, who looked like a profiteer, was setting up a stall while waving a fan. The stall in front of him was filled with all kinds of strange vases and antiques. Many of the antiquities are still damaged, and they look more and more like valuable antiquities. When he noticed that Shuyi had stopped, his eyes immediately lit up, he showed a warm smile, and stood up from the chair. "Brother, do you want to watch something? The things I have here are all antiques that have been passed down for hundreds of years. These are all treasures passed down from our family, and they all have extraordinary origins." Shuyi looked at the stall owner with empty eyes and said in a mocking tone, "You have a lot of treasures passed down from your family." That's natural. The stall owner didn't notice Shuyi's teasing at all. Instead, he picked up a few bottles and introduced them with interest. "Look, this is a bowl from 500 years ago, and this is a palace jade purification bottle from 300 years ago. This is amazing. It is said that this is the spoon that the former queen mother used to eat. Shu Yi took the bowl from his hand that was said to be 500 years ago, flipped it back and forth, and his expression suddenly became strange. He turned the bottom of the bowl over towards the stall owner and blinked. What does the word, microwave suitable, under the bottom of this bowl mean? Was there a microwave 500 years ago? Ahem. The stall owner looked embarrassed, quickly took the 500 years bowl, threw it aside casually, and laughed dryly. Maybe I was in a hurry when I went out and took the wrong one. Don't worry, little brother, except for that bowl, one have all the treasures here. You will never suffer a loss if you buy them. Shu Yi rolled his eyes and didn't believe even a word of what the stall owner said. At this moment, Hu Lao's investigation finally came to fruition. The broken sword on your right is the only ancient artifact with some energy attached to it. This should be your goal this time. Shu also looked along and soon noticed the severed sword on the stall. The hilt of the sword was primitive, and the sword body was broken, already rusty, and looked badly worn. Judging from the appearance, even if it is an antique, it is definitely not worth a few dollars due to the degree of damage. Shu Yi picked up the broken sword, looked at it for a while, and suddenly said, "How much is this broken sword worth?" The vendor's eyes flashed, and he instantly sensed a business opportunity. The next moment, he grabbed the sword directly, hugged it to his chest, and said quickly, "Oh, I can't sell this to you, this is a treasure inherited from my family. I accidentally put it here. This is not for sale. Are you here for this set?" Shu Yi sneered in his heart, but his face remained calm. Although he wanted to buy back the broken sword, he immediately showed an indifferent look, stood up, shrugged his shoulders and walked forward. "Well, since it's your family heirloom, I won't part with you." The vendor was holding the broken sword, his face full of confusion. Why is it different from the script? This plot is not quite right. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.